about the teams and what I've noticed from a couple of these teams that are underperforming and or overperforming. For example, the Pistons continue to find ways to win. I got to give credit to their fourth quarter execution. I know they had that one loss recently against Orlando, but man, Detroit has found ways to win through Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, who is my leader in most improved player this year. Very impressed with what I'm seeing from Detroit. They currently have a 3-game lead over every team else in the East, but we've known the Pistons to be good this year. I want to talk about some other teams. For example, the Miami Heat. Heat get Tyler Hero back. They brought in Norman Powell for basically free this offseason because the Clippers wanted to replace Norman Powell with John Collins. And man, was that a blessing in disguise for the Miami Heat. 14 wins on the season for this Heat team. If I go to their team stats so far, you can see Norman Powell's averaging 25 in the 4 games Hero's played. He hasn't had to be much of a playmaker because they really do it all by committee. You can see they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players that average 2 or more assists per game. It's the Heat way. They're dominating on the rebounding glass. Bam Adebayo's averaging 9. Kel'el Ware's getting 10. Those two have been great interior presences. I have been very impressed. I would so far say that if the season ended right now, my coach of the year would have to be Eric Spoelstra. For bringing the Heat team to what we thought were going to be, another 7-8 seed like they normally are. They bring in Norman Powell. It feels like they really have a complete team, this Miami Heat team. And if they have to host a playoff spot, no one's going to want to go to Miami to play them. Toronto has also been a great team that I haven't talked about too much this year, so I'd like to talk a little bit about Toronto. They're also one of those do-it-by-committee teams. Brandon Ingram averaging 22, Scotty Barnes averaging 20, RJ 19, Quickly 16, Jakob playing his role down there, but really the bench has been pretty solid. Jamal Shed bringing good minutes, Colin Murray-Boyles, Sandro Mamu has been really solid. But this Toronto Raptors team really hangs their hat on the defensive side of the ball. Scotty Barnes should definitely be on everyone's all-defensive ballot to start the year. He always gets the assignment of the other team's number 1 option, and man, has he been playing really well. Similarly to what I was saying about the Detroit Pistons as well. Very impressed with the Raptors' fourth quarter execution. They find Brandon Ingram the ball. Darko's offense has been really, really smooth. They get their guys the ball where they want to be in the right rhythm. Very impressed with those two teams doing it really by committee, the Heat and Raptors. The Magic, another team I'd like to talk about because they've been on a really big win streak since Paolo Banchero has gone out. They've now won 3 in a row. 6 of their last 7 had to. And not even that, you can see all the wins in here with the minimal losses for the Orlando Magic. Very impressed with what I'm seeing in terms of overall team balance. What's up? Oh yeah. Biggest shout out, by the way, to maybe if there was like a most improved team, Anthony Black would have to be on that team. The team has been talking really highly of him. He's really shown a big growth this season. Anthony Black going from last year being just a 9-point per game scorer, shooting very bad from the field, not really finding his role on this team, to this year, 28 minutes per game, shooting 10 shots a game. I know he's not shooting the 3-ball well, but it's not as bad as it was last year. But he's become a more all-around player. You can just see his development when watching the games. He's not just standing in the corner shooting threes. He's getting to the rim. He's drawing defenders. He's more aggressive offensively. I've been very impressed. Franz Wagner is the definite main all-star on this team this year. Obviously, Paolo missing the time has hurt, but Franz Wagner has been the definite all-star of this team, averaging 23, 6, and 4. Very impressed with what I'm seeing from Orlando. Interested to see if maybe this, is showing them that they might be better off without Paolo Banchero. Just saying. The Cleveland Cavaliers also is a team I want to talk about because this team to me has been underperforming. 9 losses. I don't know if they had 9 losses through the first 30 games last season. They lost 3 in a row to the Celtics, Hawks, and Raptors. They squeak out a win against the Pacers. They keep losing these really rough games. And here's what I gotta say. First and foremost, Darius Garland. If he's gonna keep dealing with these injury problems as a smaller guard on this team, not letting them get in rhythm, averaging 14.7 points a game, not rebounding, not passing, we know he's a defensive liability. They need to capitalize on the now. This is a team that we've talked about for the past 3 years as development team. They were the 1 seed last year. They need to capitalize on the now. Donovan Mitchell's averaging 31 points per game on one of the best seasons, technically speaking, of his career. Evan Mobley, since Jared Allen has kind of been wishy-washy in this lineup, in my opinion, has not taken the step offensively you want him to take. Changes need to be made on this Cleveland team if they want to be true contenders in the Eastern Conference. I think this team, on paper, is good enough to compete with anyone in the East. They are. The problem is when you put them against other teams. For example, you put Cleveland against a Detroit. You put Cleveland against the New York Knicks. Even a team like the Miami Heat. I am going to worry a little bit about Cleveland right now. I'm not saying that they're going to be bad. They're definitely a playoff team. But I think that if they want to reach that championship ceiling, they need to make changes specifically between Jared Allen, Darius Garland, those two guys. I think you need better fit players alongside Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter than what they have over there in Cleveland. I cannot believe that we're talking about Cleveland being basically the same record as teams like the Sixers, Celtics, and Hawks at this point in the season. Cavaliers should be tiers above those teams I just named. Other teams I do want to talk a little bit about because I saw stuff that happened. I want to talk about the Charlotte Hornets. I saw that in that win against the Raptors, they benched LaMelo Ball for the last 10 minutes of the game. They tied the game up to go into overtime, and LaMelo did not play the entire overtime where they won the game, with Con Knudel dropping 20 points, Colin Sexton being that next man guard alongside Con with 18 points. It's funny, we're seeing stuff like this happen with these guards like the Trae Youngs of the world, the John Morants of the world, the LaMelo Balls, right? These are guards that are very flashy players, but they have their way of playing basketball. And it's funny how these teams are sometimes finding more success on the court when they are off the court because of their defensive liabilities, because of their their style of play, their kind of freelance play. I'd be very interested to see if Charlotte's going to be bad this year, but yet they're going to find times to win games without a guy like LaMelo Ball. Is this the year LaMelo Ball gets traded? Same thing if we're talking trades. The Milwaukee Bucks have been terrible since Giannis has gone down. The Miles Turner experiment has been bad. 12.5 points, 6.2 rebounds. We know him for his stats, but man, he has not been the growth of player that they wanted him to be, and really the player that they thought would be a number 2 option next to Giannis. With Giannis going down with that injury, I know he's been active as of recently, they still aren't winning games. Is that a sign to say if you're not going to win with Giannis, you're not going to win without him either, but do you trade and look towards the future if you're Milwaukee? You won your championship with Giannis. If you want to do him right, I think the move would be to trade Giannis to a team that he could really compete. And I see a lot of teams in this Western Conference that I think would want him. I'm going to start at the bottom of the West and work my way up. This Clippers team has been rough. Their transition defense has been bad. They can't find ways to close out games. They're letting up way too many points. Look at this stretch reel right here. 140 points, 114, 112, 135, 120, 129, 110, 121. This team is one of the worst teams we've seen in defense on a while, and it's really because it's been the James Harden show offensively, and all of these veteran guys, they're not playing transition defense. They aren't. They're letting guys get 3-on-2 opportunities. Everyone's playing advantage basketball against the LA Clippers. I know Kawhi Leonard just came back. He's having a solid season when he plays, averaging 25, 5, and 5. It's just you want to see more out of this Clippers, especially with how old their team is. You expected them to be a better team. 5-16 is not where you want to be if you're the Clippers. I don't see Harden leaving necessarily, but changes really need to be made specifically on the defensive side if they're going to make a run. I don't have much to say about this Kings team, but every time I see highlights of them, it's not highlights. It's straight up lowlights of Zach LaVine not playing defense, of Sabonis hasn't even been on the court, DeMar DeRozan not playing defense. Dennis Schroeder, I don't know what is going on in Sacramento. Blow it up. Sabonis, DeMar, LaVine, Schroeder. Trade them all. I would completely keep Keegan Murray. He had a great start to the season before he got injured. I would keep Keegan Murray, and I would just say everyone else, we're rebuilding this entire team. I cannot believe Sacramento has not traded these guys already. As for the top teams in the play-in, the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was so funny in this Kings game right here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't play the second half of the third quarter and the fourth quarter. They only won by 14. You would think Shai played more. They didn't even need him. They They beat the Jazz convincingly. Look at these scores that they're putting up. They're putting up 120 almost every other day against, teams that we consider good defensive teams. The Blazers, the Timberwolves, the Blazers again. The Lakers we consider a good defensive team. The Warriors should be. There's a lot. I will say their schedule has been pretty easy so far. They got to see a lot of those Eastern Conference teams soon, those higher up, the Pistons, the Cavs. Once they do their Eastern Conference one, we'll really see what the Thunder are made of. But so far this year, they just look absolutely unstoppable. They have a plus 16 point differential on the year. That team, if you want to bet on who's going to win the championship, it's probably going to be the Thunder. As for a couple other teams I want to talk about, this team's been very up and down, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards has been really good, 29 points. He's been weird in the clutch, though. Julius Randle averaging 23, 7, and 6. But I saw Boogie Cousins say something that this team has a ceiling with a guy like Rudy Gobert as their starting center. In the right matchups, I think we could be seeing a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves win a couple playoff series, maybe go back to the Western Conference Finals like they have in the past. But changes need to be made in the long term around Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels. I don't know how I feel still about Dante DiVincenzo being this point guard. The playmaking isn't there. I really want to see them go get a point guard. For example, the guys I named, the Trae Young, Ja Morant, LaMelo Ball, as long as you allow Anthony Edwards or the other guy to run a little off ball, I think the backcourt would work. But the Timberwolves have been one of those weird teams I'm interested in seeing how they do. The Phoenix Suns, I got to give the Phoenix Suns a lot of credit. I hyped them up a little bit recently. They just beat the Los Angeles Lakers. Dylan Brooks averaging 22 a game. Devin Booker only averaging 25, but probably playing some of the best basketball that Devin Booker's ever played in his career. Grayson Allen just under 18. Colin Gillespie off the bench has been that real point guard that comes into play alongside Brooks or Booker. Been great. The center play has been solid between Oso Ighodaro, Nick Richards, and Mark Williams. But this team hangs their hat on the defensive side of the ball. As you can see, they're not letting up as many points as other teams do on a night-to-night basis. And this defensive identity for the Suns is probably going to get them into the play-in tournament. I don't think they're going to be a top 6 seed. I'd be surprised to see them overtake any of the teams that are currently. But very, very impressed with what I've seen from the Phoenix Suns as of recently. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about Dallas. Anthony Davis had his best game of the season last night against Nikola Jokic in a win. He had 32 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks. Finally, Anthony Davis had an impactful game this year for the Dallas Mavericks. I think we were a little quick to just completely throw this team down in the gutter for the season. We are about less than 2 months away, I believe, from Kyrie Irving coming back. They are still 8 games below 500, so they've got some room to make up. But if Anthony Davis can stay on the court, which is always a big if, I've really loved what I've seen from Cooper Flagg over the past couple weeks. PJ Washington's starting to find his footing again. The role players are getting hot. Right? The role players are finding their roles and being a little bit bigger than what they need to be for when Kyrie comes back, Anthony Davis is healthy, they finally have the real lineup. I think these role players are, they're getting developed the way that you want these guys to get developed if you are a team. Obviously, you don't want to be 8 games below 500, but not looking at the record, over the past week or so, I've been impressed with what I've seen from the Dallas Mavericks, specifically Jason Kidd's coaching, I think, has been well. Getting their role players in the right positions has been much better. I don't think Anthony Davis will get traded back to the Lakers. I'd be extremely, extremely surprised by that, Triple G. But overall, those are the teams that I wanted to talk about right now at the season. Reed Shepherd, by the way, really good player.